The Ravens Rundown should be your go-to place for coverage all off season long because we're going to continue to be rolling out content every single day. The latest news, rumors, and reports. We're going to have free agency, the NFL draft, any trade buzz covered right here. So make sure you hit that big red subscribe button down below. In fact, we only need 58 new subs today to get to 45,000. Join us for daily videos by subscribing. With that, let's get started with it. So the second that Jesse Minter was hired as the Baltimore Ravens' next head coach, a lot of people, myself included, our thoughts and questions were, okay, where's he going to go with offensive coordinator? Because when it comes to Minter, you don't worry about the defense. You knew he was going to call plays. You knew he's one of the youngest and brightest defensive minds in the game right now. But with him really only coaching under the Harbaughs over the last decade or so, he doesn't have a ton of insane offensive connections. So that was really going to be important, especially when you got a guy like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the building. Well, Jesse Minter yesterday spoke to the media for the first time, and it did not take long for him to be asked about the both coordinator searches. And he had this to say. He said both those searches are going really well. They're very far along, I would say. We're finalizing a few of those pieces. I'm looking for leaders, connectors, relationship builders, and schematic expertise. I'm excited about the people that's involved in those searches right now. And after he said we're very far along with both of those searches, I automatically thought, and talked about it yesterday, look, this could be something that gets finalized over the next couple of days. Well, Adam Schefter went on ESPN this morning and gave us a pretty big update on two specific candidates, saying they've been talking to the Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle, and they've been monitoring Denver Broncos pass game coordinator Davis Webb. And it's starting to feel like Declan Doyle is a legitimate possibility. We got the news late on Monday night that the Baltimore Ravens had requested to interview him, and it's nice to hear that even 4 or 5 days later that they are still in discussion with the Bears offensive coordinator, who he himself is one of the more younger and up-and-coming, brighter minds in the National Football League. And of the young guns that we've discussed throughout this entire process, I really, really like Declan Doyle a lot. In fact, I like him more than Davis Webb, which is funny because Davis Webb right now is getting head coach buzz. And that additionally is one of the reasons that I personally like Doyle better, is because in the back of my mind, I know if Davis Webb comes into Baltimore and has an unbelievable season as the play caller, which he's not doing right now in Denver, if he's already getting head coach looks this cycle, I guarantee you, he not only will get looks next cycle, but he's going to get a job. So if you bring Webb in here and this offense runs like we think it should and hope it would, you're only going to have him in here for 1 year. Now, Doyle could be getting head coach looks next year as well, but it's not like a for sure thing like it is with Webb, who's already getting them this cycle. Another reason I like Declan Doyle is because he's coached under Ben Johnson, who's only had glowing things to say about him. Deck's done a phenomenal job, says Johnson. He's everything I thought he was going to be and then some. He's got a tremendous presence in front of the players, extremely smart. I think the future's bright for a guy like Declan. Hopefully we can keep him here for a long time. Well, I don't have those exact same hopes as Ben Johnson does. Doyle's been coaching for just a shade under a decade. Started as a student assistant at Iowa from 2016 to 2018, offensive assistant for the Saints from 2019 to 2022. He then followed Sean Payton to Denver 2023 to 2024, worked as their tight ends coach, and then this last year was stolen by Ben Johnson to be the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. However, of course, Ben Johnson's their play caller, so Doyle does not call plays. I've got two opinions when it comes to Declan Doyle. Like, my first thought, the angel on my shoulder, is telling me how much I love the fact that he's learned under two of the greatest offensive minds over the last decade or so. Like, Sean Payton has been dominating this sport offensively since I was in kindergarten. And I mean that legitimately, because when he worked for the Dallas Cowboys, his son Connor Payton and I were in the exact same kindergarten class. Don't believe me? You can look it up. I doubt you're going to find the Hidden Lakes Elementary yearbook from 2006, but if you do, I'd be incredibly impressed. And then, of course, he's gotten to spend time under Ben Johnson this past season as well. Learned from two different styles of offense, two different styles of head coach, young, old. I really, really like that he's got that a part of his DNA and the fabric of his being in the National Football League. But I also have my second opinion, the same opinion that I've had for the entirety of this process, is a first-year offensive coordinator scares me a little bit. And the reason it scares me, it's been well documented, is you got a first-year head coach, probably going to have a first-year defensive coordinator as well. I don't know how crazy I am about having a first-year OC as well. Having three guys in massive roles that have never done that before. And Baltimore's different than a lot of other openings. Like, if that happens in Arizona, that's probably fine. They're not going to compete for Super Bowls in year one. That's happening in Atlanta or in New York. That's fine. They're not competing for Super Bowls, right? Those staffs can grow with those players. But for Baltimore, like, you could hoist a Lombardi trophy in 365 days, ladies and gentlemen. So if you get something like this wrong, that could be pretty detrimental to a season that might feel like another waste. That's why, in my opinion and in my mind, I'm like, okay, it could be some benefit to bring in an offensive coordinator that's called plays before, that's had success before in this league as a play caller. But also, it feels like we're a little bit too late in this process to be picky and choosy, right? I mean, it's almost February. Offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, they're getting hired by the day. Options are dwindling, and Doyle would be a great one. But does he want Baltimore? I think that's going to be the question. Brad Biggs for the Chicago Tribune, really, really locked in inside of Chicago Bears. He doesn't think so. He says it sounds like there's a chance Doyle will pass on the opportunity and most likely stay put with the Bears for at least one more season. Doyle withdrew from consideration for the same role with the Eagles with whom he did interview. At least one of the team with a new head coach had some interest in Doyle, but the word got out that he planned to stay where he is. Now, Gage, you can just push me full screen here. I've got a couple of thoughts on this. Just because Brad Biggs is saying this does not mean that this situation, Baltimore, for Declan Doyle is the exact same as the other situations he could be talking about. Okay, first off, the offensive coordinator job for the Baltimore Ravens is like the best offensive coordinator job available in the game right now, okay? It is so much better than being the OC over there in Philadelphia. Like, think about what's going on that coaching staff. You'd have to, A, coach for Nick Sirianni, B, coach for Jalen Hurts. It feels like that thing is just a ticking time bomb with that roster. Everybody's passing on it. So that's a big reason I believe that the Ravens job and the Eagles job are a little bit different. And then additionally, like, the reason he would take the Ravens job is he's an offensive coordinator, but he's not the play caller. In the ability to be a play caller in your first season for Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry and company seems like a really good opportunity to jump in. Pick your OC down below. Give me a DW for Davis Webb or a DD for Declan Doyle down below in the comment section. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up, we got an update on the defensive coordinator search for the Baltimore Ravens. This one comes, I believe, from Ian Rappaport, not Matt Zena. It's of CBS Sports. He's going to come later. But what's coming right now is our awesome sponsor, our friends over at PrizePicks. The season's almost over, but it ain't yet because we still got the big game coming up, ladies and gentlemen, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. Since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Missing your fantasy team? My league's already over. But with PrizePicks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft to keep playing fantasy. PrizePicks lets you play fantasy football every week, even in the playoffs. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. Join millions of users. Sign up for America's #1 sports picks app. Here are my PrizePicks for the big game coming up in just about a week and a half. I got the more on Cooper Kupp receiving yards, less on Jackson Smith and Jigba receiving yards. I think Gonzo's going to be on him all night long. I'm going to have the less on Ramondre Stevenson, 50.5 rushing yards. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Link to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Ian Rappaport updated us earlier this morning that Broncos defensive pass game coordinator and And assistant head coach Jim Leonhard is believed to be interviewing for the Ravens DC job today. The source said Leonhard also has interest from the Bills. Jim Leonhard's a guy we discussed this week when it came out that they're requesting to interview him. I'm glad to know that that interview is, in fact, happening today. That could be something that if he's got a lot of interest in Baltimore, we could know, and that could be finalized by the end of the afternoon. Jim Leonhard, let's tell you a little bit more about him. From 2016 to 2022, he spent time in Wisconsin to be the defensive backs coach, defensive coordinator, and interim head coach for the Badgers. 2023, he spent time in Illinois. He's been learning under Vance Joseph since 2024 as a defensive backs coach, pass game coordinator, and assistant head coach. Jim Leonhard actually spent the 2008 season playing for the Baltimore Ravens, and this is a guy that I would really, really like to be the next head coach, defensive coordinator for Baltimore. I think the big question when it comes to Jim Leonhard is which will he choose, between Buffalo or between the Ravens? Because that's what it seems like it's coming down to right now. It's going to be one of those two squads. It's just going to be in his hands. I think each present their own unique advantages and disadvantages. With the Ravens, I would argue from a personnel perspective, you might be better off with guys like Kyle Hamilton, young corners like Nate Wiggins, Roquan Smith, even though he's getting a little bit older. I think you got better personnel on defense, better stars, I should say, on defense with Baltimore than you do Buffalo. But with Buffalo, he'd be able to call the plays because he'd be a defensive coordinator for Joe Brady, who obviously is an offensive-minded head coach, first-year head coach at that as well. If he came to Baltimore, he wouldn't get to call the plays. Okay, he'd have to be, under Jesse Minter's scheme, everything like that. Where do you think he'll go? Give me a BAL or a BUF down below. Is it Baltimore? Is it Buffalo? Weigh in with your answer and let me know what you think. Real quickly, before we get on out of here, a couple of more coaching staff moves. Aaron Wilson tweeted out. Gage, did we miss something also on Twitter? Is that why Harrison was coming in here? No, I guess we didn't. I'm checking right now. We're good. Sorry, guys. Just had a coworker walk into our studio. I want to make sure we weren't missing anything. Aaron Wilson tweeted out, after 9 years with the Ravens, Baltimore run game coordinator Travis Switzer is staying in the AFC North. Going to be the Browns' new offensive coordinator under Todd Monken. I feel very, very fine having Dwayne, run the offensive, be the running offensive game coordinator. The run game coordinator for the offensive side of the football. Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports says the Giants are expected to hire Ravens D-backs coach Donald D'Alessio. Sources tell CBS Sports, obviously, you got your new defensive back coach with Mike Mickens. This isn't a surprise, and I wish them the best over there in New York. That's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you guys got me followed on socials, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. This defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator news could break at any second, so make sure you're subscribed with those notifications on so you don't miss them out.